Hi folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly check out Dice City. This game is for 1 to 4 players for ages 14 and up, with the average play time being about 45 minutes. So the box says it all in terms of what this game is about. Dice City, and then on the bottom, roll, build, win. That should give you some clue as to what's going on. Basically, players are going to be rolling dice, activating spaces on their city, collecting resources, using those resources to build more buildings, or they can use those resources to trade with ships in order to collect victory points. They can attack bandits or other players, and all of these different actions will net victory points in some way, and the goal of the game is to have the most victory points when the game ends. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the components and see how the game is played. Okay, so as far as the components and game setup is concerned, we'll start with this player board. Each player gets a player board, so they each have their own city, and these spaces are already filled in for you. You've got like militia, small house, traveler, cave, forest, mountain, and so on. And you're going to be adding to the city with these cards over here. And whenever you purchase a card, you'll be laying it over top of one of these already existing spaces. Each player also gets a set of dice, one of each color, and the colors and the pips on the dice correspond with the rows in the columns. You've got white, yellow, red, blue, and black, and then the pips up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That'll make more sense when we actually get to the dice rolling aspect. You've also got some tokens over here. You've got wood, you've got iron, you've got stone. Those are the 3 resources in the game. You've got some victory points here, 2, you've got a 3 here, and you've got a 1 here. The start player, you've got these deactivation tokens. As buildings become deactivated, like if another player attacks you, for example, and succeeds, then you'll have to deactivate one of your buildings. There's these pass tokens which you can collect and then turn in for special abilities, that kind of thing. Then you've got a bunch of cards over here. You've got these trade ship cards. These are sorted out by their victory point value. You've got 5, 10, and 20. Bandits, same thing. There's a little shield on the bottom left telling you their strength. There's 3, 4, and 5, you're going to put them into their own separate stacks. And again, they have their own victory point value too, 2, 3, and 4. You've got these regular army, lumber mill, mine, and quarry cards. These cards are always available for purchase, so they're sort of like a general supply, at least until they run out. If players purchase all of the cards in one stack, then they're no longer available. But then down here, you've got a huge deck of cards, and you're going to deal 8 face-up like this to form the pool that players can purchase from. Now, these cards are much different than these up here. You've got like watchtowers, stables, cathedral, bazaar, churches, and that kind of thing. And again, players can be purchasing these cards in order to replace already existing structures on their city. Alright, now at the very beginning of the game, and the player that last rolled a die will get to go first, but I'm only going to use one board here because there's not enough room to show you 2. So at the very beginning of the game, every player is going to roll their dice and then put them on the appropriate space. So you've got a yellow 1, for example, so here's the yellow row, and then here's the 1 column. So you're going to put that there. Red 3 would go here, because 3 and red. Black 5, or black 4 rather, goes here. Blue 1 would go here. And the white 4 rather will go here. And then each player is going to do that. Now on a player's turn, they're going to resolve a certain number of steps. So using your dice, on your turn you're going to remove one of your dice from its location and place it to the side of the board to take any of the following actions. You can use the location beneath the die and resolve its ability. So let's say that I wanted to resolve this blue 1 here. I'd get 1 wood from the general supply. So I could take a wood and put this dice off to the side and be done with it. And I have 1 wood now. Alternatively, the second thing I could do with one of these dice, move another die to an adjacent space on that die's own row. So let's say I didn't want wood. If I gave up the blue die, I could move this red 3, for example, over here. Or I could move it over here because this is an adjacent space. Okay, so I could do that. The third thing I could do, discard 4 of the location cards in the display that are available to build and reveal 4 new ones. So let's say I didn't want any of these buildings over here. I could get rid of this blue 1, get rid of 4 of these cards, and then deal 4 more. So I'm partially refreshing the pool over here. So that's another thing I could do. Important, you may only take this action once per turn, so you can only do that once per turn. You can also reactivate a deactivated location anywhere in your city. Let's say that a player attacked me in a previous turn, and let's say that this small house was deactivated. I could give up this blue one instead of collecting the resources or doing anything else with it to get rid of this. And that could be anywhere in your city. It doesn't have to be on the same row or anything like that. Finally, you can pass and gain a pass token. So let's say I don't want to do anything with this thing. I don't want to move another die. I don't want to collect its resource. I'm just going to move it out of here, and I'm going to collect a pass token. Now, what do your pass tokens do? Well, in addition to using dice, you may also spend 2 pass tokens to take one of the following actions as many times as you have the 2 pass tokens to do so. The first thing you could do is gain 1 resource of your choice. So I could turn in 2 of these to gain an iron, for example. So I could do that. Increase your army strength by +1 for this turn, and I'll explain army in a minute. And then finally, force all other players to re-roll 1 of their dice of your choice. This happens in clockwise order starting from your left. Okay, now all of that was only the first thing that a player does on their turn, is use their dice. The second thing they do is the attack step. If they happen to resolve any dice that are on top of these army spaces here for that particular space's effect, they'll gain army strength. For example, if this red 2 was here, and this, let's say this yellow 2 was here, and we've got a blue one here, yeah, okay, blue 3. So let's say that I resolved all my dice, and I resolved these dice as well for their military strength. Now it says here, add 1 strength to your army, add strength to your army, add strength. So basically I added 3 army strength for this turn. And I can spend those 3 army points any way I want to. I can split them up between different actions. Some of the things that you can do with that is you can spend those army points in order to attack these bandits over here. You'll want to take a look at the little shield on the bottom left-hand corner of these cards, like this one says 3. If the army points that you have meet or exceed this value here, then you can take it and you can earn yourself some victory points. It's listed right on the card. So that's one thing that you can do with your army strength. You can also spend 2 of your army strength to attack another player and gain 1 of their resources. Another thing you could do is use your army strength to attack your opponent's buildings. Now, you cannot attack a building that does not have a shield on it. Like all of these starting locations do not have a shield in the bottom left-hand corner, so you cannot attack those. However, these cards that you can buy over here, they do have shields on the bottom left-hand corner. So let's say that my opponent had a card here, and I had 3 army strength, because there's a little 3 down here. I could go ahead and use my 3 army strength to attack this location. I can deactivate it, and I can also gain victory points, as shown in the bottom right-hand corner of the card. So you can gain victory points by attacking your opponent's structures, deactivating them. You can gain victory points by attacking these bandits. And instead of doing all that, you can attack your opponent and gain resources. That's the second thing a player will do on their turn. The third part of a player's turn is the building and trade step. Let's say I had some resources here that I collected by activating different spaces. Alright, so I have a wood, I have a stone, and I have an iron. I can go ahead and buy cards over here if I want to, or I can turn them in with these trade ships up here. Now, in order to trade them in with these trade ships, you need the resources as shown on the cards. There's 2 wood, 2 stone, and 2 iron. If I had 2 wood, 2 stone, and 2 iron, I could give them back to the bank, take this card, and I get 5 victory points. Alternatively, I could buy a building over here. And the resource cost is listed in the upper right-hand corner. This bazaar, for example, needs 1 wood and 1 iron. This watchtower needs 1 wood, 1 stone, and 1 iron. So let's say I went ahead and bought a watchtower. Whenever you buy a building, you simply place it over top an existing one. And this is where you can customize your city a bit. Let's say I don't want to concentrate on resources at all this game, and I want to concentrate on military might. I could cover up, say, a cave up here, for example, and I could then, this top row, this white row, does not have a military space on it, but by buying this card and adding it up here, I am now adding the possibility of being able to get more military might on my turn whenever I roll my white die. So I could do that. I could buy a card, put it on my board somewhere, and you can keep doing that so as long as you have the resources available. Last but not least, we have the end of turn step. Here you have to discard down to one of each resource. The past tokens you can keep as many as you want. Now let's say I had like a stone and a wood here, so I have 2 stone, 2 wood, and 1 iron. I have to keep one of each resource, so I have to give these 2 back up to the bank. So it's a good idea to spend it because you'll lose it if you don't. And the other thing that you do during this part is roll your dice again. Now, at the beginning of the game, you're going to be doing that first thing. But at the end of your turn, what you're going to do is you're going to roll your dice again and assign them as appropriate. So yellow 4, red 4, white 6, and black 5. And that'll end your turn, and the next player will get to go. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Players will continue taking turns until the game ends. The game can end a number of different ways. If all of the bandit cards are gone, that'll end the game. If 2 out of the 3 trade ship piles are gone, that'll end the game. If the location deck runs out of cards, that'll end the game. If a player has 2 completely filled roads of built locations, so if I have cards from over here built onto these roads here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I have 6 cards here, and maybe 6 cards up here, and none of them are deactivated, then I have the option, I don't have to end the game if I don't want to, but I have the option of ending the game. After the game ends, the players will count up how many victory points they have in front of them. So for example, like these spaces on the board, you're going to count the number of victory points you have in the bottom right-hand corner. Cards underneath do not count, so if you have like this watchtower, which is worth 2 points, on top of this bazaar, which is worth 1 point, this 1 point would not count. You're also going to count the number of like victory points you get from trade ships or bandits, and your victory point tokens that you might have gotten by attacking another player successfully. And then you're going to add all of that up, and the player with the most victory points will win. Okay, so there you have it, a quick look at Dice City. It's important to stress that I did not cover all of the rules found in the manual. This was just to give you a general overview so that you could see how the game was played. As far as what I thought, this game is fantastic, I gotta say. I am a big fan of city builders. This isn't a true city builder. When I say city builder, I mean like SimCity. Green is residential, blue is commercial, yellow is industrial. Sunrise City is sort of like that. You've also got Suburbia, sort of like that. This game is a little different than your average city builder. It's a little bit more light, because you already start with a city. I mean, you've got some starter spaces there, but the nice thing about this city builder, quote-unquote city builder, is that you can customize your city any way you want to. So you can buy cards from the pool, and then you can cover up spaces that you don't want. So let's say you want a completely militaristic campaign. You can cover up your resource spaces or your victory point spaces, put military cards on them. That way you have a better chance of getting more military strength each and every turn. Alternatively, let's say you want to buy a whole bunch of resource cards and cover up your military spaces. That way you can get a lot of resources on your turn, possibly use these trade ships to get victory points, or buy more buildings. So there's different ways to go about playing this game, and you can play any way you want to, really. So there's a lot of options here. I think the game is pretty simple, which is awesome, considering that there's a lot of different things going on. It's just rolling dice, activating spaces. The hardest thing for new players to wrap their head around is what they can do on their turn. Like, you've got a number of different things you can do with your dice. Like the option to, for example, give up 1 die on one row to move another die on a different row to activate another space. So there's a lot of different ways to maneuver your dice the way you want to in order to get the effect that you desire. So there's that. This game reminds me a little bit of Machi Koro. In Machi Koro, you're rolling dice and collecting cards in order to build landmarks. I think that this game is sort of like that, because you're doing the same thing. You're rolling dice, you're activating spaces. You're not activating cards, but you're activating spaces on your board. And, you know, you're collecting resources or doing various things, getting victory points. So this game is a lot like Machi Koro, I do think, but it's a more complex version of it. So if you do like Machi Koro, then I think you'll like this game too. Just keep in the back of your mind that this game is a little bit more complex and requires a little bit more thought. So if you're a casual gamer that likes Machi Koro, you may want to think to yourself, okay, do I want to take the risk and see if I want to play this game or not, because it's a little bit more complicated. My advice to you, if you are a casual gamer, you do like Machi Koro, see if you can play Dice City with someone that's a little bit more experienced, and that way you have an easier time going through your turns. But once you get a handle on how the turns flow, then I think you'll be okay, even as a casual gamer. It's just getting over that initial hurdle of my gosh, all of these dice, all of these cards, what am I going to do on my turn? Am I going to give up a die here? Am I going to move a dice over here? Am I going to use this attack strength for this? Am I going to buy this card over here? There's a lot of different things you can do, and that may overwhelm some players. But, again, once you get used to it all, it's a really fun game. And it has a 45-minute play time, so it's not like you're going to be spending 3 hours playing this game. So, again, fantastic game. Great visuals, great graphics. The box insert, I didn't show you that during the components part, but it's okay. There's a lot of spaces here for the cards. I have extra dice and extra tokens in here that I didn't get to show you. And there's, again, 3 other player boards I didn't show you. But all in all, great game, so go check this one out. If you want to see my full review, you can. www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can keep up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.